What is Liberate Liverpool? Liberate Liverpool is about liberating our city. It's an umbrella that is going to go over what we hope to be 85 independent councillors running against the Labour Party. A lot of people have come to me and said about the bullying that goes on within the Labour Party. I think I've been bludgeoned with that knife many times. Absolutely. I think I win that one, by the way. Yours might be more relevant, but mine was a bit of a while ago. I understand, and certainly Dave understands, and I think an awful lot of other people in this room understand, Labour Party gang together locally to beat off anyone dare threaten their throne. I believe if we all come together with the knowledge of various people in this room who understand social platforms like we do, those 85 plus everyone else clustering together will be far more powerful than the Labour Party. So you won't be an individual councillor on your own taking the beating that they've cascaded onto our shoulders many, many times. That's going to stop. So Liberate Liverpool is an umbrella. It's not a party. Why isn't it a party? It's not a party because they've got nothing to aim at. If something goes wrong with one of our would-be councillors, one of our individuals, it's very easy for us to carry on. We'll be fluid. We don't want anyone to hurt and the movement going forward, because that's what it is. It's a movement. It's an anti-corruption, ultimately anti-austerity movement. Yeah. So tonight is about, again, going over the fraud and corruption, which is clear. I don't want to go on about it too much, but we need to ignite that fire in all of our bellies and cascade that onto everyone else that we know in order to pass on this message about stopping this corruption. Because it is clear that the cabal that ran the corruption before is still there today and is still carrying on with the same motives as before. And hopefully, I've got 3 people who are going to come up tonight and speak. We're not going to spend more than maybe 5 minutes on this, but in that 5 minutes, they're going to get over their story, their understanding about what they believe has gone on. Some of these people have gone into huge detail for a long period of time, got themselves into a lot of trouble, a lot of issues because they were on their own. Now we're part of a much larger community. These people feel like they want to come forward. So the first one that we're going to bring up is John. John, where are you? Come on up.
On this now for probably about 5 years on the corruption. It was actually brought to my door at first, and then I started looking into it, finding out what was going on and stuff. And then I started speaking to councillors who wanted to speak out, but they wouldn't because they were scared of what the ramifications would be from the Labour Party and stuff like that. So I started putting it all forward, and I started going to the council, the likes of Tony Reeves, Jeanette McLaughlin, everything, and all the time we were just getting buffed. And we buffed and we buffed. And then because I carried on pushing it, we started then with the managing unreasonable behaviour letters. So I've got a stack of them in the house. I just carried on all the time. But my concern is, even though the commissioners are in now, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. It's all still going on. I've spoke with some people in here about it. We've got a land deal there. The land valued at 1.2 million.
Just behind if you want to see it, so you can talk through your own.
The land valued at 1.2 million, offloaded for buttons because an internal valuation said the land had negative value. Now, I can tell you, no land has negative value. So that's another 1.2 million, what could have been got on the open market, gone. Right? And the company it went to are linked to full-on gangsters. One of the former directors has been put away for 16 years, I think it was, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's all still going on. Commissioners know they've got no interest in Liverpool at all. They just want to see the 3 years out. We're paying them 60 grand, I think, a month, isn't it?
That's right.
60 grand a month. Or you can say, well, enough's enough, and do what Lawrence has done, and other people are going to do it, stand up.
Okay, thanks, John. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, John. John is someone I've known of for a long time, but haven't known. An awful lot of the Max Cole report is John. So it's John's research. John got that fire in his belly, went out there on his own, single-handedly got together the facts of what's transpired within a corrupt council. So he is a scouser just like we are. He's just like me. He's no different than anyone else in this room. He went out there and spent years of his life now coming up with absolute facts, undeniable facts of fraud and corruption. And there are other people that want to talk about the fraud and corruption, other people who are councillors. So Alfie Hinks is a councillor who has not been a councillor for long, maybe 2 years, I'm not sure, it might be a bit longer. Came into a Labour council, saw what he believed was fraud and corruption, which is true, and then decided to go as an independent. Alfie's coming here tonight to talk about BICO. Alfie.
Hi everyone, my name's Alfie Inks and I'm the councillor for Everton Ward, and if anyone knows Everton Ward's most deprived area, not in just the city but in the country, and that's where the problem lies with how we represent our communities and how we try to best get out the money that we've got to give it to the communities. When I was elected in 2021, we came into the council and I was a Labour councillor, but we went into that council wanting change. We formed a pact that we would change the council for the better. Unfortunately, you can't change a party so big as that. In 2022, they put a proposal forward to give £24 million in cuts. We refused blatantly to vote for a £24 million cut. When I represent the most deprived area in the country and they want me to go out and vote for more misery for them people, I refuse to do it. 8 of the Let me tell you this, we didn't do it for spite, or we didn't do it for devilment. We had an alternative. There was an alternative there to protect the city, to protect them people from them cuts. This year, we've got £40 million in cuts to face. That is a massive, massive problem from the previous years. Go and sell the Kenwright building. If we put that building up for sale for at least £60 million, you'd probably get it. Spend £10 million on refurbishing a building for them council officers to go into their new offices and sell that for 50 million quid. There's the problem. There's half of our problem on its way to be solved. Every householder in this city, okay, has the opportunity or could have the opportunity to buy their freehold. And that means they don't have to pay the taxes that they have to do. If they were to buy off the council at a reduced price, you could recoup £3 to £4 million. Now, don't tell me that economics gone mad. It's not. It's there to be had, and that was the alternative that we put for the city. And they refused it point blank. They said we couldn't do it. You can't take capital receipt to pay for revenue. Well, let's go and find out whether we can do it. Let's go to the government and let's ask them, can we do it? Because we desperately need to do it. We desperately need to do it. Last year, you've seen the Labour Party at its best, but they forgot to renew the electricity. It's cost you, every city resident, every Liverpool city resident, it's going to cost you up to £16 million in the mistake that they made. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Me and my colleagues in Liverpool Community Independence have been fighting corruption. You've heard what John said, and we have been fighting. If anyone's ever heard of the BICO report, has anyone ever heard of the BICO report?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The BICO report laid out the misdealings and the mismanagement of the BICO Beautiful Ideas Company, which was run by city councillors. And they ran 3 car parks. They ran 3 car parks, cash in hand. Lots of that money was unaccountable. This is a report. If anyone wants to read it, I'm not going to read it out. I'm not going to read it out because they'll come after me. Okay? But there's recommendations there that, okay, the recommendations that this should never have happened. Where did all the money go? I asked in a select committee last year, and I sat in the select committee and asked them, where's the money? Up to 60 or 46 to 50,000 pounds was committed to my ward, to County Ward, and to Anfield Ward. Not one penny has been put into them wards where it's desperately needed.
Disgrace.
This is the quabble that we're dealing with. This is the city council that we're dealing with, and it has to stop, and it has to stop now. We, as a group, will be standing candidates in the elections. There'll be other groupings on Liverpool City Council. They'll be standing candidates. We may have different policies, but there's one thing that we're going to come together in, is stop corruption now. All we ask is to get out there, okay, and support the candidates that are stopping corruption. It needs to stop now. Thank you very much.
I mean, clearly that's what we're going to be doing as well. We're going to be fielding together, hopefully 85 councillors that will help, along with Alfie's plight of taking on a very corrupt, also inept Labour Party. They, in my view, and you may disagree, I think they will struggle without the might of the people behind them, without the fire in the belly that we must place in everyone's stomach to make them feel ill with what they've done. Because I think it's undeniable that there is corruption, was in our council and is still in our council. The same mechanism that supported Joe, and let's not forget, Joe could not do this on his own. Joe could not sign off on anything. He had to have his mechanism that lay beneath, that ensured that everything was signed off and that fraud and corruption flowed freely. So David Cummings was someone that lived within the belly of the beast. Please come up.
Good evening everybody, I'm Councillor Dave Cummings, I'm an independent councillor, I was a Labour councillor, and the Labour Party tried to make out that they kicked me out. It's untrue, I resigned. I'm not going to go over the things that Councillor Alfie Hicks mentioned, because I'll just be repeating it. I just stand by every word he said. I resigned from the Labour Party on the grounds of corruption, on the grounds of brown envelopes that we've all talked about, on the grounds of jobs for the boys. I thought when I left the Labour Party, because I'm a socialist, I remember that I was thinking to myself, what are you doing, Dave? And then I just thought about what has happened, what I've seen internally in the Labour group in Liverpool City Council, and I just think to myself, I don't want to be anything to do with that. These are the reasons why I want to liberate Liverpool. Simple as that.
Thank you. Dave, I'm going to bring you back on in a minute, okay?
Okay.
Talk about the elections. Thank you, Dave. So what you see behind us are key dates. Clearly we're here for a reason. The reason is to ensure that we have 85 nominations for the council positions that are out there today. In May, that's when the election is. For the first time, we have every single post being elected for. Liverpool doesn't run to that system normally. It was the Max Cole report and Kenwright who got Liverpool to change its process. This gives an unusual, unique position for us to go after those 85 council positions. That used to be 90, but now it's 85. So there's a lot of wards, I think it's 46 wards now, have just one councillor. And then the rest are a cluster of 2s and 3s, but mostly 2s. So for the first time, everyone votes at the same time. So when we put out a message, a strong anti-corruption message, I think that should be enough to make people want to vote against Labour Party for the first time. Now, there's an awful lot of people that have voted Labour all their lives for generations, but actually that's only 15% on average of the total vote. The other 5 vote for other people. The other 80%, the disenfranchised, me, and probably many people in this room, that 80% are the people that we're actually after. And we're going to use the fraud and corruption, the fact of fraud and corruption, what was and what is now, as the fuel to light up that fire, to make sure that those people feel strong enough and angry enough to get off that couch and go and vote for the first time. But there's a problem. We haven't got a lot of time. We have weeks. So the website's up now. Liberate Liverpool is there to be seen. These dates are on that website. It's really, really important. If we stand a chance, we need to gather pace quite quickly. Today is about who are we, what are we? Well, we've just made that quite clear. We're not a political party. We're not a political party because we don't want to run to the same rules as the Labour Party, because they are experts in taking people down that come up against them. So we are a cluster of individuals that come under an umbrella and a branding of Liberate Liverpool. When we do our leaflets, it's all at the same time. We'll be able to produce our leaflets, which will be cheaper. We've got people in the room now that can distribute those leaflets and do it. We've got the funding to do all these things together as a collective, not as individuals going out there fighting for their own position. Let's say Mr. Cummings there in Wavertree goes out, fights something. He's a lone wolf. He's on his own. He'll get surrounded, beaten up, and pushed to one side. He can't win. But as a collective, let's just say Labour Party decide tomorrow to come after Lawrence Kenwright. That's fine. I'm used to it. But if they come after... I know you were. So if they come after me, or they come after Dave, hopefully with this new umbrella of Liberate Liverpool, there are 85 would-be councillors, plus everyone else that's associated to come in to protect. That's where the battle's going to be won. YouTube for young guys, Instagram for the girls, Facebook for the older generation. We have a massive amount of followings already in my business on those platforms. What I'm saying is all that as a collective together beats the algorithm. So the algorithm of you being on your own, you won't get much traction. But if you put out a post and within 5 minutes there's 85 people jumping on that post, leaving a comment, putting a share in, putting a like in, that beats the algorithm. But if we're together under this umbrella, they can't win.
That's quite flattering, though, doing that, because you know they're terrified. They know the backing. They know they had their spies at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And they know collectively we can make a difference. And it's not Twitter feed.
No.
It's not just a few people. It's a pebble in a pond that is absolutely growing by the day. And they know the backing. They know these people are collectively have got a shot at this. Before, nobody's had a shot. There's been no opposition. There's been no opposition in the city.
But I'm saying, as an individual, me trying to take them on, I'll get obliterated again.
That's when you know they're so desperate, the level. We won't go to that desperation. In fact, we don't even look at them once, but don't waste any time on them, because that's what they want. Our time needs to be done knocking on doors, getting out leaflets, uplifting people, educating people that this is in fact the old labour of our grandparents' day, is what our ethics are and our morals, our moral compass. You know, today, Labour in this city is more conservative than conservative.
And I'd like to add, I'm here for our kids. I'm here for their future. I'm not just here against corruption. I'm here for their future.
Okay, so, sorry, to do that, we have to make sure that the noise that we've created in this room resonates and pushes out. We need more than 100 odd people in the room.
Domino effect.
Absolutely, a domino effect. We need to make sure that
We need candidates.
Well, we do. So before we get to the candidates, we need to make sure that the message spreads. Tonight is about making sure that that message is cast in stone. We now know for a fact that the corruption and collusion, what was there yesterday, is still there today. Not as bad as it was, but it is still there. We had a chief exec called Tony Reeves who had to leave very, very quickly Because, and look, this is just me stating what I believe to be factual, but I have no evidence, but I'm going to say it anyway. In order for Tony Reeves to get his position, he worked for Joe Anderson for 9 months. In order to get that position, he had to do his bidding. Otherwise, he never would have got the frigging job. Yeah. He absolutely done everything that Joe Anderson asked him to do. At the last hurdle, when he gained his 235 grand a year job with his fantastic pension, when he got that, he then decided to toe the line of what is right and wrong. And when he toed the line of what was right and wrong, that's when he fell out with his master. And that's when Operation Loft, I believe, was started, because files went out to St Anne's police station within days. And there were threats. So this wasn't a small thing, this was an enormous thing. And I believe, and I don't know how true it is, it's just my view, I believe when Tony Reeves left, it's because the commissioners saw what he did when he was with Joe and thereafter.
20 years. Mm-hmm. You think it's a modern phenomenon? It's not.
No.
It probably started really gathering pace, European Objective 1. Mm-hmm. Then it continued. Unfortunately, when Labour came in, it became more and more obtuse, more and more arrogant, to the point where people were generally just discarded. No matter what you think, no matter what you see, nothing to see here. It's a cabal that draws its membership from the public, the private and the voluntary sector. The only reason it exists is to promote its own aims. If there's any benefit to the people of the city, then effectively that's purely serendipity. Yes. You've got to understand that it's also, a part of this is the delegated powers of the senior officers in this city. People that you can't vote in, you can't vote out. So any collective of any independence needs basically to clip their wings. You don't need to clip their salaries, you need to clip their wings, etc. I've questioned delegated powers. In fact, recently I've questioned delegated powers. Where did your delegated powers come from? What are your delegated powers? Who signed those delegated powers off? So it's not just the politicians, it's also the whole run of the city. The commissioners have come in, their powers, by the way, are limited. They haven't got carte blanche to do as they see fit. And even if they did, they don't have the experience with this city to be able to root out the problems that are here. That requires you to bring that to their attention. You bring it to their attention enough, they have to do something. People say, the Tories put the commissioners in. Why? Why? Because the state of the city in itself, that's run on the basis of patronage, effectively, and nepotism. And nepotism reigns supreme. Look at the number of arm's length companies that operate in this city on behalf of the council, where you cannot get the financial information to see who's drawing down money and where that money is going. There's an old saying, follow the money. Follow the money every time. And you will see it's like the strands of a web. You'll see where it's coming from, where it's going to. I say it is, and I dubbed this when I first noticed it, if you like, properly, the European capital of corruption, because that's my opinion. Do I mean that everybody that works for the local authority or every politician or every officer is corrupt? No, I don't. It's a culture. Yeah. And it's an embed that has to change. And the only thing, people that can change it, is you. Waking up. Yeah. Waking up. And that's all I would say to the rest of the
Thanks, Carl, putting it so eloquently. I couldn't have done it anywhere near as well as what you've just done it. But delegated powers is the mechanism on how they have gone past what would be the Nolan Principles. The Nolan Principles is how a council should act. And they should always get the top of that pyramid, always should get best value. To ensure they don't have to give best value, they do get delegated powers. For instance, if you own a property and it's next door to a property that the council own, many times people have been told to buy a property which would be adjoining to another property, and then later on they can sell that property to them because they own the adjoining property, therefore delegated powers can be used. So the mechanism is very technical and very hard to prove, very hard to go in and say, I can see fraud and corruption there. You can see that there's an asset there, as John pointed out before, sites for 1.2 million, there's sites for 10 million. There's sites where we've we've done a CPO process, compulsory purchase process, where we've ensured that people have to sell the assets to us as a council, where we've spent £6.5 million on a site only for the next week for it to be sold for 1.5. Why was it going to be sold for 1.5? It's because that lovely little company that's just saved £5 million was going to do theatre again on Lime Street. But then so many years on, that site's being built, theatre hasn't been built, yet we didn't put into play the option if they didn't come through on what they promised to do in order to not give us the money they should have given us. They didn't, and we still didn't have the opportunity to go back and reclaim the money that they should have paid us for those assets. Why? Because they're in collusion with. So we have our politicians and we have our businessmen. What we're saying as a collective is we will never sell assets ever again. If it is good enough for a developer, it is good enough for this city. It's good enough for the city to make its own profits in order to give it back to its 30 woods. Yeah. There are the odd anomalies to this, which Alfie raised before on somewhere like Cunard Building. If it is proven that the Cunard Building is not needed, and if from the profits of the Cunard Building when we sell it, by the way, we bought it for 10 million odd from our own pension fund, which bought it for 17 million. So the pension fund bought it for 17 million and we bought it off them for 10 million. So there's a loss there to someone somewhere. But now it's probably worth 50 million. What I'm saying is, if that is going to happen, it is total openness and transparency. It is there for everyone to see. And absolutely that money, a lot of that profit, has to go back to the 30 woods. We've had 12 to 13 years of no money being dispersed to the outer regions. Nothing. We've been too city centre-centric for too long. Liverpool is a fantastic brand. It is damaged, but it can overcome the damage. We can recreate it again. We can make sure that people understand what an amazing city it is to live in, how friendly the people are, what a great place it is to invest. But now it's not, because your money will sit here for 2 years before you get planning, which means you're going to lose money from day one. And every single developer in the world knows that. Why would they park it in Liverpool when they can go and give it to Leeds or Manchester or London or whatever it will be? So at this moment in time, we are really, really up against it. We don't understand the plight yet because it's not there, but it will be in 2 years. The development jobs that we've rejoiced in for the last 12 years are going to go. I know, I'm in the game. I do it every day of the week. I understand it. I understand tourism. I understand the problems we have there, albeit I do think that looks a lot rosier than what the development is. But take development out, the jobs that you talk about and the living wage that you talk about will obviously go down. If you have less jobs, that forces the price down. I'm a guy that used to employ 1,600 people. If I want to put out a job there and say 10 people come for it, I know I've got to pay more than £10 an hour. But if there's 200 people come for it, I might want to just pay £10 an hour. So it's supply and demand. You need to create the jobs in order to push the price up. And we all want everyone to earn more money because that fuels the local economy. And we need, as you said, the Preston model, that's our model. I think the battle won't be in the leafy suburbs. The battle's going to be in the north of Liverpool. And it needs to be councillors with a Scouse twang. It can't be people who, I'm not knocking education, by the way. It's a fantastic thing. I'm not knocking that. But people who stand in those areas need to speak in the same tongue.
Live in the area.
Absolutely. Live in the area. Very important.
Come. This is the people's city.
Absolutely.
This is all of ours. This is our city. Not these 85 or these 90 in the Q&R that are making decisions that are wrong for our youth, for our people. We've got elderly people that are waiting for showers to be fitted into their homes.
That the government recognise malfeasance in public office for what it is and prosecute for it.
But you know how difficult that is to prosecute. So, but hold on. But you know how difficult that is.
Yes, I do.
To prosecute. So I'm
Very serious.
Yep, I get that. But I've just gone through a malfeasance case myself, so I understand how difficult that is to get over the line. And it is a serious offence, but it is one that is seldom used.
Thresholds.
So, look, we know fraud and corruption is going on in the city. We know it goes on. We know that only 1% of all cases in any bad practice ever get found out and brought to court. What we're saying is we're never going to get that proof. We've got the Max Cole report. That's proof enough. We don't need any more convictions, although I do think it will happen, and if it does happen, great. If it doesn't happen, we carry on anyway.
The reason I mentioned convictions, fear sharpens the mind.
Yeah, I get that, but how long will that take?
Well, you can start in the system. Look at it, Liverpool as a financial holiday.
No, I get that.
You can understand.
We've got 10 weeks though.
It's not throwing more money.
Yeah, we've got 10 weeks. In those 10 weeks, we've got to make sure that what we have, we use. And that's what tonight's about. And I'm hoping that from tonight we gain everyone's emails, everyone's phone numbers, everyone's connections, in order for them to also reach out, because there's not enough people in this room to create the movement that we want to create. So we have to push out again in order to get the councillors that we need, 85, 60, 70, whatever we can get hold of. And then we have to go through a process in a very, very short period of time. I want to bring Steve McNally for a 5-minute chat about how he's took on the council in the past. Steve, as a brief introduction, Chinatown was one of the first sort of issues to hit the development world. Steve brought all of the investors from all over the world into one group, and down to Steve as to why they'll probably end up with 80p in the pound, probably. But that's down to Steve. Steve, do you want to come up?
I think the old saying is, how do you follow that? 2017, I asked Joe Anderson to resign because of Chinatown. He said no. I went to the cabinet and said, would you tell him to resign? He said no. So I went to the 55 Labour councillors who had the power then to go to Labour itself and say, let's get rid of these people who are running our city. And they didn't, because they all had vested interests of their own that they wanted to cover, which is why they've all got to go. Now, did anyone hear about it? 2 big nursing homes that were going to get shut. Well, that's how bad it is, because they were actually going to dump over 200 elderly people on the road in the October. They told everyone in the August. Now, all these families were panicking because they had nowhere to take them. But it was the council's nursing homes. But the people who were running it said, no, we're not going to run it anymore. So the council said, oh, we'll sell them. Now, we know there's ulterior motives for why the council wanted to sell these amazing buildings. They'd only spent, a couple of years ago, 8 million on each, because they look like hotels. And there was issues that went on about that. So that's behind the scenes of what goes on. There's always an ulterior motive for what this council does. So we got together. I went to meet people in Anfield. There was a load of people, all looked stressed, all looked fed up about the situation. I explained to them, Joe works for you. Right? The council work for you. They're not there because you felt like doing it. They work for you. You paid the wages. So to get rid of them, you have to be collected. So we explained how we could do it. We started doing things outside the actual nursing homes in Speak and in Anfield. And I was more involved at the Anfield end because it was easier to get to, and the Speak had their group. But collectively, we took on Joe. Joe wanted to sell them. He wouldn't stand down. We had the TV crews there from BBC. They all put it on. So we started getting hot for Joe. And Joe was coming to the next year was going to be when he was going to go into election mode. Because in 21 he was supposed to get into the election. So because of that, he started panicking. He sent his bagman down to the site and said to the leader, it was an amazing woman, who I won't name now, but she was the core of everything that we went through. And we worked on a strategy. She told him, no, I'm not going to shut up. She also turned around and said to every councillor, you're not saying you're from Labour, you're not saying you're from the Lib Dems, you're not saying you're from the Greens, you're going to say, I'm such and such, and I'm here to stop these nursing homes being taken over, being sold. Because of that, Joe then made another text to this guy, and he got up on the stand, and he turned around and said, Joe's told me to tell everybody in that building, don't get a new job. He told them they all had to get out, all the staff as well as the nursing homes, the elderly. Don't move, Joe's going to fix it, he's not going to sell them now. That's because the collective all turned around and said, on your bike. That's why you all have to create collectives in your own ward to back someone you believe in that ward. And we get 85 new ones, of which one takes one people. You can take over the council through this umbrella organisation. Afterwards, there'll be a collective, and it will become something that every other area in the country can do. And that's what you guys are the nucleus of. And we're going to do it in all the different areas. There's actually 64 wards, so there's 64 groups like Ballybourne going to be set up on the back of this, and 85 people stand in those wards. Because in some there's 3, some there's 2, some there's 1. And that's why we're all here tonight. That's why we'll be doing it at the next stage. This is a perfect storm. 85 places are up for grabs. If we can do it and take over the council, we clean the city. But we've got to try. So if you can all do that, That's what we've already done before.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Catherine and I'm our woolly back. You all know where I'm from. Yeah, so all plastic scousers need to stick together. Absolutely 100% in appreciation of everything that Lawrence is doing with the Liberate Liverpool. I have recently become the interim deputy leader of a new small party called the Freedom Alliance, and we are doing a very similar thing on the Wirral. As you probably know, we've got 66 seats coming up for the local elections, and we are trying to get as many people as possible to do the same as yourself, stand as either party-backed candidates or as independent candidates. And every single one of you will know someone who lives on the Wirral, a family member, friend, colleague. Tell them the same thing that's happening here is happening on the Wirral. We need to get in touch, we need to get organised, we need to help each other. So I will promote what you're doing to everyone we know on the Wirral, because they, you know,
well, we'll link websites. Yeah. Sure. Just, of course, yeah.
And it's in relation to a comment that both yourself and Steve McNally made regarding devolved powers and those numbskulls who have the position to operate under these devolved powers. I will not accept that it's ignorance, okay? These are people who know exactly what they're doing. The truth of the matter is they have no heart. They do not care about the people of Liverpool.
No.
And they certainly do not care about the futures of Liverpool, which are our children.
No. Thank you. So it gets to a point where you have to just take on board what's being said. There is the Max Cole report. There is everyone in this room's got a story about tales of woe, of issues and problems, fraud and corruption. At some point, though, we start damaging ourselves as a city. But we need to use that as the embers to light those fires. Those fires are what I'm hoping you're going to take home with you tonight and speak to other people about. Because, as I said before, we need more than the people in this room in order for us to make a difference. We're going up against a very well-oiled machine that I get is limping a little bit locally and is having problems, but many people on the streets don't know the story. They don't understand about the fraud and corruption. They don't understand about the delegated powers. They don't get into that complication. Night follows day. People just want to get about the daily business. They don't really want to get involved in politics. But I think we will never have an opportunity like this ever again. There'll never be a chance for us to put into positions the people who understand the city. There's a lot of knowledge in this room. You've heard, you know, just how well people come across when they talk about how passionate they are, how knowledgeable they are. I believe that those people are the ones that should be running the city, not the people who are based there on friendships. Don't forget, I've spoke to them, dealt with them, been with them, tried to understand what makes sense. And I have to be honest, to your point, none of it does make sense. It is all self-serving. It is all about their own friendships. I personally have heard Joe from his own lips state to me, I have to look after myself. He then followed on with, that's why I know the figures, my chief exec's on 235 grand a year. He gets a pension, I don't.
Oh, poor you, Joe.
So, well, don't forget when Channel 4, when he said his wife had to go to work, and how poor he was. So, look, but at some point we have to say, enough's enough of that. Sorry, would you like to speak? Come.
Terry Clark again. I just want to give you a little bit of advice. We've been mentioned before. I'm a member of the Marylebone and Westmoreland Action Group. And just a little bit of advice on how to start things going. We've got it going, we've got it successfully. We've more or less cut out the middleman. In this instance, the middleman was Nick Small. So we've done a really good job there. So, and there's two councillors we've cut out of it. Because they were doing nothing for us for a period of 6 years when we had antisocial behaviour. We took matters into our own hands. We cut out the middleman. We got in touch with the cause of the antisocial behaviour. We found out the root of the problem. We got to know the problem. We talked to Brian Kelly here. We talked to the managers of the YMCA on Leeds Street, where the problems were emanating from. We wrote to them. We threatened to write to the Echo. We threatened to demonstrate on Leeds Street. We had all our banners ready. We were going to take direct action. And to put it bluntly, everybody, including the councillors, shit themselves. We got what we wanted. We stopped and we didn't need the councillors. So much so that we found out that we don't need the councillors. The councillor's job there is to protect vested interests. Where most of the problems come from, by the way, with all these linked companies and all that. So if you've got a problem or a complaint with a company, write to that company. Tell them why you've got that problem. Tell them what you're going to do if that problem isn't sorted. Never mind the council system, which will have you writing letters for hours and hours on end, for years and years on end. It doesn't work. Cut the councils out, take direct action, and fight for your community. That's what I'm asking you.
Thank you. I'm just going to invite 2 more people to speak, 2 more, and then we're going to bring it to a close. So, Kevin, would you like to speak?
Yeah, basically, I mean, one of the things I want to say is, you know, it's the anti-austerity and the anti-corruption. It's always against something. It's also important to tell people what we stand for, and we stand for positive change. And we've got to make the kids and the people understand that the city can thrive. Kids' lives, futures can thrive. So we're not just standing against things, and we're not just pointing fingers, because that's why politics has always done my head, and because it's just always backwards and forwards, slagging each other off. It's for positive change. It's to create a change for our kids.
Thank you. Dave, come in. Yeah, go.
I just want to add to what Terry was talking about being let down by councillors. I'm an active councillor. When somebody gets in touch with me, I do what's expected. But forget that. I want to break down this stigma of how do you go about putting yourself forward in an election, because the established parties do not want to let you know how to do it. It is very, very simple. I've got the dates here. I think it's towards the end of March. Where are we? Let's see. We're at the bottom here. Where are we? Right, 22nd of March. There's application packs in the electoral office of Liverpool City Council. Anybody can go there, and all it is, you get it's about that width, and it's 4 simple application packs of name, address. As what I said last time in the last meeting, you have to have 10 people in the ward that want to stand in to OK you. You need a further 2 people to recognise that you're going to be the candidate. The rest of it is just your name and address, and that's it. It's very, very simple.
Have you ever been registered for 12 months? Paying council tax for that property?
Right, so the time factor, it would tell you in the application. So I'm not going to say, yeah, it is or it isn't, because off the top of my head, I don't know. But in that application, it tells you what you have to have. Now, I would assume 12 months. I would assume 12 months. Right, but there's 4 application forms. They're very, very simple, and it's going over the same thing over and over again. Your name, your address, where you live. Simple stuff. It's not hard at all. And why I'm saying this is everybody's got this stigma that it's dead hard to put yourself forward. You don't have to pay any money. You don't have to put down any deposit. It's free. It's all you need is that you live in the city Liverpool boundary, you pay your council tax, that's it. It's very, very simple. You just go, I mean, if you're going to be within the group and anybody wants to put themselves forward, I'm more than happy to meet you at the council offices and get the pack with you and go through it with you. I mean, I wouldn't have to, because it's very, very simple form. It's only asking you basic information.
Could I just
As long as it's quick now, because, yeah.
It's about logistics.
Yeah.
How many people have we actually got in the wards at the minute? How many days?
No, March is the 22nd. March the 22nd
Then
is
the
when
election's
you
in May.
is when you access
Okay.
the application.
Okay.
pack. It has to be in on the 4th of April. Right. So you basically got, where are we? 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
By 4 p.m.
Yeah. By 5 p.m.
Okay, thanks very much, David. Thank you very much. Thank you. A couple of things to take away from tonight, because we're going to bring it to a close now, which is, we have our next meeting, which is on the 20th of Feb, here, 6 o'clock. Same thing. I implore all of you to try and bring as many people as you can to this next meeting. We need as many people as possible, because they are more beacons. We need as many beacons as we can to push out the message. Not to your point, Kevin, about the negativity, but it still needs to be there. But aligned to the positivity of what we're going to bring. I understand, and I know there's a lot of people in this room who understand the problems of the past, but also the remedies of the future. I understand it. I've lived it now. I've sat here for 3 years waiting for this moment. This time that we have now has never been better. And I see the fraud and corruption as a nightmare. And it's such an awful thing to resonate from the city. But actually, it's actually a positive. Because we can change that debacle, that issue, and turn it into a positive new beginning for a group of people that actually would never be allowed at the table. But we can create our own table. So please come to the next meeting. Please bring your friends with you. We have about 100 people in this room tonight. We need it to be 200, 300 people. Yeah. I've got loads downstairs. Yeah. Go on, sorry. Yeah.
I've lived in Scotland Road, and the new constituency is the Scotland Road and Exchange. On Friday, I'll be working in the food bank in the VNC, which I helped set up. Now, I'd like to tell 60 to 70 people at that meeting, at that food bank, that I am their next prospective councillor. I'd like to get it started now. I'd like to tell those people in the food bank, they'll go home and tell their kids, oh, Charlie,
Well, you can.
To get the vote, is it all right for me to announce my on Friday?
So I would say, before everyone leaves, we get everyone's emails. Last week, we got emails, and a lot of people wrote it themselves, and either it couldn't be deciphered or someone else wrote them down. This guy here, by the way, and got a third of them wrong. So if we can make sure that we get everyone's details, everyone's contact details. And then the next week, I think the people that want to become councillors, we have another meeting. That's not this meeting, by the way. This meeting on the 20th is to bring as many people to go over the same things what we spoke about today, but to make sure that we light that fire in their bellies. So the next meeting that we have will be about you and you and you and you and people coming together, the collective, to make sure that we all understand and we speak about what we're trying to get to.
When's that meeting going to be?
When's it going to be? No, it's not the 20th. We'll call a meeting over. Sorry, hold on. We'll call a meeting over the next couple of days.
Yeah, because I'll be working next Monday after that. I'll be out there for the football club.
I get all that. So we'll have to put in a couple of meetings, but it'll have to be before this because time's running out.
Yeah, because that's why I wanted to announce on Friday, because it's a captive audience. There's 84 people all over these pensions. They're all going to go home.
Okay, you can announce as you whatever you wish. What you have from us is the fact that we're going to cover it as well. So you can do that. But we do need to go through the process of what we are standing for as a collective. Yeah? Because there needs to be a certain amount of rules and regulations that we abide by. Like, I don't want to run by leadership. I don't want to run by mayor. I want to run by committee. I want everyone to understand that the decision-making process is a collective. No.
Who is thinking about standing as a candidate? Is anybody thinking of standing as a candidate? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Any on this side? Great.
Not enough. Okay, and there's another idea, which is about having... Please, guys, please. We're coming to a close, please. It's about having an anti-austerity, anti-corruption march. Now, tonight, we have the BBC here. I'm not going to point at anyone, but we have the BBC. We also have the alternative to the Echo, which is the Post, over in the corner. And we have many newspapers that want to turn up to this anti-austerity, anti-corruption march. But we need numbers. So it's all about numbers now. It's all about getting people enticed who want to come, who want to represent, who maybe want to be councillors, or maybe just want to help out. There's an awful lot of people that don't want to raise their head above the parapet, but actually know what's going on.
Can we call it an anti-offside march and there'll be thousands?
Yeah, VAR march.
People have got to know that they're in an abusive relationship with the very people that are supposed to be there.
Vote them into power, yeah.
Let's break the cycle of abuse.
Yeah.